Hey YouTube, it is season turnover today, so 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. You will have league turnover, which not league turnover, season turnover. So your rating will be reset. We're starting back for a full season. Today is Great League and Little Element Cup. So I'll have teams for both. This one will be focusing on uh, building around Pokemon that are going to get buffs. I've got 5 of them here, so time sample if you want to check that. Just a reminder also, put on your star piece before you click battle, because as soon as you open up the battle screen during season turnover, it automatically gets you your rewards. So do that star piece before you get to, before you click the battle button. Okay, there are 5 Pokemon that I think everyone is going to try out here. Um, there's a bunch of Pokemon that got buffed, a bunch of Pokemon that got new moves, some that got nerfed. I think that there are 5 Pokemon, in my opinion, that I'm going to try for sure. And I think you probably will try, but you can always just wait until I try them to get the honest beyond the hype review. So Gligar is one of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to always just, PvPoke has not updated the moveset yet. But I'm going to go show you what it looks like with the new moveset and teams for it, right? So Gligar, basically all I want to show here is the typing and the strengths and weaknesses. So Gligar is a ground flying typing, which is an interesting one because, so one con makes you double weak to ice, and then water because of the ground. But pro, ground is weak to grass, but flying neutralizes that. Flying is weak to electric, but ground actually double resists that, so you single resist that, right? So it's got a sort of unique typing, but ice is the main issue. And then as we go to here, I did put in Dig. I put in just Night Slash right now because Aerial Ace has not updated. It has Aerial Ace and Night Slash and Dig. So all these moves, so Dig and Aerial Ace are getting buffs. So this is still just the old simulation, but it doesn't change the losses, right? Water Gun Lantern, which I said I would not be surprised if you see more Water Guns, right? So water and ice should not be surprising. Ton of ice that you're going to be here. So anything that's water or ice, you're just going to get lit up. Azumarill, Lantern, Walrein, A slash, Nine Tails of Powder Snow, and then you got some things that are just like the problem with Gligar. If you've never used it before, it does not hit hard. It does not hit hard at all. Flyers are obviously an issue because you're now just going wing attack, aerial ace, or night slash, which is not sufficient really to beat them. So you got some flyer issues, ice here, and then it's just some like very bulky Pokemon that even with like maybe Umbreon matchup isn't as bad when Dig gets buffed a little bit here, but for the most part, just like bulk your Pokemon, you don't hit hard enough, and you're for being like the baby version Gligar, you're still kind of glassy, not as glassy as Gliscor, but still a little glassy. So in terms of teams with Gligar, I put 3 together. So if you're going to be weak to ice and water, if you want to just go very meta, just to be like safe right off the bat, Metachamp, Registeel, right? Registeel will take care of your flyers that you have the issue with, and Metachamp will deal with all the fighters. And if you get hit with the Charm user in A9 Tails, you can just go with Reggie, right? So very meta team, very balanced. Medi or Registeel can be used as safe swaps, right? Gligar on the lead or in the back as well. So that is 1. 2 is, okay, if you're going to be weak to ice, you might as well bring out Lantern itself. Lantern, again, still a great answer for flyers. Still has the electric typing. They didn't change that. And obviously you can run Water Gun or Spark. Again, Spark's going to be nerfed. I don't think it's going to be nerfed a ton to make it substantially worse. And you will do resist all the ice type moves as well. So you have answer there. And then Lickitung just is your safe swap. And that's kind of what the backline for Sableye and Bastiodon has too. Like you have Bastiodon, which is just going to deal with all your ice type Pokemon. Just smacking those down. And then Sableye is just a good safe swap. So it's very much, Gligar is one of those Pokemon where, because it only has a couple weaknesses in ice and water, it's very easy just to build sort of like meta teams around it. Just build teams that resist, not resist, but like do well against ice and water, which there's a lot of just sort of like meta Pokemon which do that. So that is how I would build around Gligar. So that is Gligar. So now let's move into the second Pokemon, which is Steelix. So Steelix is getting, again, don't worry about the rankings here. I've got the actual right move on here. But Steelix is getting breaking swipes. So Steel ground typing, I've used Steelix a couple times in Great League and Ultra League. I hate these typings. I hate the Steel typing because you add so many weaknesses against the main meta. So the main weakness, fire is kind of whatever, but fighting, ground, water, everywhere, everywhere in the Great League meta, which makes it when you go to moves, when you go to rating here, a little 26-17 record, you're like, okay, nothing amazing wins, but again, look at the losses you're going to get against a lot of the main meta here. Registeel, A9, Swampert, A/, Metacham, Lantern, Diggersby didn't get a buff too, right? So that even came a Azumarill with a Fairy. Now you have some fighters, right? Toxicroak, Obstagoon, Scrafty, Vigoroth, all the fighters are going to weak too. And then even Venusaur, you lose to that because it hits neutral and friendly plants hit super hard. So there is a lot of weaknesses that you need to cover on this Pokemon, which makes it not trickier to use, but there are things you need to deal with. So I started with, okay, if you are going to be weak, so if you're going to be weak to fighters, I think having Pelipper as a flyer, as a fighter answer, that can also cover sort of the grass that you saw there in Venusaur and stuff like that is great. And then Toxicroak, because it's sort of like, yeah, Pelipper can also deal with Metacham. And then Toxicroak is one of those Pokemon where it's very, the poison typing on it, poison fighting, I believe, makes it interesting because it just neutralizes the charm. So let me see if I can just bring up Toxicroak here. Yeah, so neutralizes things, so you're just weak to Psychic, Flying, and Ground. Which again, Psychic will be super resisted by Steelix. That does add a double ground weakness, but again, you have Pelipper as a flyer to deal with that. If you just also want to go sort of safe, Swampert, so ABB style team here, I'd have Steelix, Greedent in the back, both weak to fighting. You don't, again, Swampert's not an amazing answer to that, so if you want to put in like a different answer in terms of like a ghost or something to deal with that, I think I have that coming up with Greedent on one of my next teams. You can do that like a Jellicent or something like that. You can do that instead of Swampert. I just like Swampert's, again, I think Swampert, even though Earthquake got a little nerfed, is just so strong in this meta. Deals with pretty much almost everything. And then Greedent with the buff is, as you're going to see in the next, or maybe two more, is one of the best safe swaps. And then unfortunately Metacham is still one of the best in everything. And Drapion is just put as like as a pivot safe swap. If you get hit with like a fairy and stuff like that. Like a pure fairy is not bad. And then just having the poison there is decent as well. So then we are going to go to Hitmontop. So I've used Hitmontop in the past, and it was really, really fun because you just had like two nukes. You had Stone Edge and Close Combat. And you're a fighter, only fighting, so you're weak to Flying, Psychic, and Fairy, but basically you're just countering in Close Combat or countering in Stone Edge. Now you have this new move in Triple Axle. So it is an ice type move, so it gives you your flyer coverage there. Again, you're still going to be weak to flyers. But what that also does is it makes you limited against some Pokemon where you just can't throw anything. For example, Jellicent, which will resist all the ice and fighting type moves. So ghosts are still a problem here. You're going to see like Frostlass, I guess it's only neutral, but half ghost. Psychic, anything that resists the counter. Again, when your main thing is still counter, they give you a nice coverage move now, but when your main issue is still counter and Close Combat, you still got anything that resists those two moves. Poison and Venusaur. You have a Charm User that's just going to be super effective. You have a Psychic resist that. Frostlass will be neutral to that. Your flyers, right? Talonflame, Charizard, those will resist that. Poison again here. So you have to cover basically everything. So it's how I would look at Hitmontop is as one of those Pokemon, like, yes, you now have a nice coverage move that is more of a bait move, and it boosts your attack, if I remember correctly, too. So you can ramp up counters, which is nice, but your main sort of weaknesses, that anything that resists sort of your fighting aspect is still going to be an issue. So that is how you need to build for that. So with that, we go with a couple things. So again, when I said you're weak to Psychic and you're weak to I guess fairies and stuff like that. I think Kofagrigus is a great answer, right? Kofagrigus, one of its only problems is dark, which counter user, great there. And then I have a Ninetales with Powder Snow, because again, if you're going to be resisted by the poison, you have to run Powder Snow. So again, Kofagrigus will resist the poison as well, so that's why I think they're appearing there. I think 89 was just like more of a coverage for like a poison grass type Pokemon, or like poison fighter, just having like Powder Snow, Weather Ball, to being able to spam that. You can also go with Charizard, just because one of the main psychics in this meta is Cresselia, so unless it's running Future Sight, you're just going to resist everything. Plus, it's just generally a great Pokemon. Also, counter, you're going to be resisted by like something like Metachamp, so having a flyer to deal with that is strong. And then Lickitung, just one of the best. Again, I think Lickitung actually gets a little bit of a boost this season because you now have way less Noctowl, which was still very, very prevalent everywhere. You may see more Greedent. We'll talk about Greedent in the next one here. And Diggersby, so that it still affect your licks. But overall, it's a pretty safe Pokemon to use. And the last one I said, you still need a flyer to deal with everything, all these things here. How about a normal flyer? But if everyone's going to be like, Noctowl's gone, I don't need to worry. How about Pidgeot? Normal, same typing, flying in normal typing. So you got that same typing, but now you have still Brave Bird, you have Gust. You just don't have that coverage, right? And Regirock, again, I've used Regirock a few times. Regirock is a very interesting safe swap. You are weak to fighting and water. It's like a few things, and grass. But you charge so fast on the Stone Edge. And if you have Zap Cannon or Focus Blast, really just like nukes. And they didn't, I thought they would nerf Lock On. They did not nerf Lock On. So you are still very, very strong with the Regis. So if you don't want to use Registeel, which you could use here as well, you can use Regirock as a nice cover there. So now we're going to go into Greedent. So I don't really need to bring up the typing because Greedent is normal typing, only weak to Fighter, and only resist Ghost. So it is getting Mud Shot, which just means it is just going to spam way, way quicker with these Body Slams and Crunches. But overall, so like as you can see, the distribution here, very, very centralized. This is why it's a great safe swap. The only thing that's going to cause problems is Scrafty, which will just be able to ramp up. But outside of that, again, now running Mudshot, you have more of a flyer issue. But I guess you're running I guess you're running Boltsy before, so that take that back, because that's not actually an issue because Boltsy was also resisted, unless you're running Tackle, which is normal. But Mudshot and Boltsy both would be resisted by Flyer, so Flyers are still an issue. And then again, any fighter, Metachamp, Defense Deoxys, Toxicroak, Obstagoon, these are all going to be issues. And even so, Steels are still going to be an issue. So even though you have a super effective move against the Steels and Mudshot, you still need to rely on your charge beams to actually do anything to them, and you have that non-stab crunch at best. So those are going to be an issue. That's right. So Flyers, Fighters, and basically Steels is where your main weaknesses with Greedent are. The good news about Greedent, and I've already done a top teams on Greedent, is it pairs with basically anything. So basically pick a combo that you like that has coverage against everything that I just mentioned. So I've used this Sableye Swampert core many, many times, including I used the Sableye Swampert Registeel to get to Legend last season. It is just a super solid. I love Sableye Swampert core. It is just extremely strong, so just having that core with Greedent works out perfectly. Again, Registeel is just this one's an ABB. If Greedent is only weak to fighting, you can use Greedent as a safe swap, draw out a fighter, punish it with Jellicent. Again, Scrafty would be a pretty big issue for this team, but between the Mudshot, Body Slam, Spam, and then Surf, you can just take it out. Not too bad, and then just have Registeel not roam free, but roam a little more free in the back, unless they have like a double fighter or like a Swampert or Quagsire or something like that in the back to deal with that. So that's like an ABB style team. And then another core, I don't have a Carbink yet, but I think more people will. I always talked about how Meganium is one of the sort of strongest Pokemon I use, but it was always limited by Flyers. But now Flyers got a pretty big nerf. So you're probably going to see less. You're going to see more Gligar, but Gligar and but Gligars have ground, so you're still hitting for neutral with your Frenzy Plants on it, right? So if that's going to be the main flyer, hitting for Frenzy on that, Noctowl and stuff are gone now. You have Carbink, which is weak to it, weak to grass. You have the Steels, like Registeel, you can still hit with Earthquake. Is a great Pokemon to use. Safe Swap, Greedent. And then in the back, Carbink, which again, Carbink is the main issue for Carbink is going to be your like Mud Boys, Quagsire, stuff like that. So it's just a balanced team. So I really like something like this. I'm definitely going to try something like this out. But again, I don't have Carbink, so unfortunately I can't do that. Exactly. And the last one, I think people will try, again, people are going to try a bunch of teams. I'm going to try probably some of these other ones that I'm not covering yet with like that got new moves. But Mantine with Aerial Ace, because Aerial Ace is getting a buff. So instead of just going Bubble Beam Bait, you have Aerial Ace, which will hit a little quicker. The problem with Mantine is I don't think it actually changes much. And the problem is because you're double weak to electric and you're weak to rock. And one could argue that people would like Bubble Beam more because it's a bait move. It's a quick bait move, but also it debuffs their attack, so they have to like reset, and which makes it very, very tricky Pokemon to go against. But Aerial Ace, if it gets a buff, you probably will pick up like a couple of these closer matchups just because you'll be able to spam it quicker. So it hits the same, but like so I guess just overall better like coverage as opposed to just a Bubble Beam Bait. Plus what it does is it allows you to actually throw something at I guess not Lantern, but like other water Pokemon, because the problem is if you went up against a water Pokemon, you only had Bubble Beam and Ice Beam, everything was resisted. But now if you have Aerial Ace, you can at least hit for neutral in those situations. But again, Electric, Rock, Steels you still don't, actually Steels you have even worse now because Steels you can't throw anything at. Bubble Beam, you can, again, you were going to lose those anyways, but Bubble Beam would resist. So got to cover Steels, got to cover Lantern, got to cover Rock. So that is what you need to cover with Mantine. So to cover those, again, when you need to cover Rock and you need to cover Steel, that's why you're going to see the first one in each of these is a ground, right? Quagsire, Diggersby, Galarian Stunfisk. You can use Swampert, just cover Mantine with a ground, and then a third, and you'll be fine. So in the first one, just put Registeel, again, all around, just you're not weak to fighting anywhere here. In fact, Mantine is a flyer, so you will resist the fighting. So that's just kind of like a nice combo there. The second one is ABB style, trying to draw out a fighter or Swampert with Diggersby, and then Mantine then, and then Togedemaru goes ham in the back because it always does. And then just sort of like a balanced team. Again, if your Galarian Stunfisk's main issue is going to be Fighter and Swampert, which and Quagsire, Mantine will deal with that, and Sableye a safe swap. So there's a lot of good Pokemon to test out here. Like I just covered the 5. There's other new Pokemon getting new moves. Like a lot of people talk about Ampharos having a grass type coverage move. Same with Skunk. And then there's also like Helios, the electric Pokemon there, which is getting a new move. So there will be a lot to cover. I will play Great League this first week. I will not play Little Cup. I will do Little Cup teams. It's a little Element Cup remix at that. So that is this afternoon if you want to check that video out, if you are interested in playing that. But I've got to imagine that everyone was going to want to see how these new Pokemon perform. It is actually Element Cup remix next week as well. So what I expect is everyone to play Great League this week to test these new Pokemon out, because then next week is Ultra League and again Element Cup remix Little Edition, 2 weeks in a row. Ooh, this is an ugly season. So I'm sure more people will play that next week. So let's focus on this. Let's focus on these new Pokemon. I will bring you beyond the hype of all these Pokemon. Again, no, I keep kind of poking fun at the other content creators because hype sells. So they want to get it out ASAP and they want to hype this up like this. Oh, this is the best. You need to build this up. Come watch this video. Resources are limited for a lot of us, especially us free-to-play players. So I am not going to tell you that you need to go build these Pokemon. I'm going to give you the honest pros and cons of these Pokemon, how I feel with them. So I may not get them out as quick as the other ones, but you will get an honest, non-hype version of how these Pokemon play. Anyways, that's it. Let me know in the comments below if there's like another new Pokemon you're interested in playing, and I can maybe cover that, because again, I have pretty much every single Pokemon for the Great League here. So I can cover all of those. So let me know in the comments below, and then stay tuned for if you want to play the Little Cup. Stay tuned for top teams later this afternoon, and then league turnover. And I guess our first team will be showcased on Saturday. So stay tuned. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.